Every big win starts long before game day. On any given Monday, we go where cameras don't. Behind the contracts, the calls, and the chaos. We'll road trip with scouts, visit iconic campuses, step inside replay booths, and walk up to the luxury suites. Real organizations, real stories, real decisions. Lace up your cleats, buckle your chin strap. Here comes our GM, Matthew Miley.
Today, my guest is Mike Snyder. Mike is the Director of Athletics and Recreation at Pacific Lutheran University in beautiful Washington State. He just completed his term as President of the National Association of D3 Athletics and is a proud Bowling Green State University graduate. Go Falcons. And I made sure to wear my Falcon sweater right there.
Well done. Well done. I like it.
All right. So, Mike, before we dive into your career, help us to understand the numbers. So everyone knows D1, D2, D3, but what's like the distribution of schools and students? Like which division has the most students, schools? What does that look like?
Yeah, so Division III is the largest of all the three divisions. We've got about 420 institutions compared to, I want to say there's about 350 or 360 Division I. So most of those athletic programs are in the Midwest and East. And so with us being out on the West Coast, we're one of the minorities out in this side of the country. As far as the number of athletes that are within those programs, about 20% is the average percentage of student athletes on our campuses. So we're pretty high percent when it comes to the number of student athletes that are roaming around. They're pretty important to our enrollment and what we do overall.
Yeah. So, and what metric makes a school D1, D2, or D3? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that really defines us that most people know is that we do not have athletic scholarships. So almost all of our students do get some sort of merit aid, but when it comes to scholarships for athletic-based talent, that's not something we do in Division III. Our philosophy is really about the pure student-athlete experience. The belief is that you're coming to school to get your degree, and the athletic experience is something that complements that. And so all of our students that are here are doing this, for the love of the game. It's what they really want to do. They have a passion for playing their sport. So that's the first kind of biggest piece about it. The other thing is we have a really strong focus on it being a 4-year experience. You hear a lot in the media about these 5-6 year folks who are continuing on and somehow figuring out the loopholes on how they can keep playing. We're really all about getting in there, get your degree, getting on with your professional life, but in the meantime, having an incredible athletic experience as well.
Yeah, yeah. And so, like you just said, D3 athletes are love of the game, just playing it for the love. They're just true student athletes. And so when Pacific Lutheran hired you in May of 2021 after a nationwide search, take us inside that moment and what that meant for you and your family.
Yeah, so that process, it went through a search firm. So the Pacific Lutheran University contracted a company to really scour around and try to find some folks to apply for the position. And this company is one that I had worked with some other searches in the past. And so when the person running the search, he reached out to me directly and said, "Hey, I think we've got something here for you that would be a good fit." And he knew that I was looking for an opportunity that would be in a bigger metropolitan area, someplace that would have some good schools and amenities for our family, and working directly for the president of the university and not have any other side reports. I wanted to be a direct report. And I told him I wanted to be at a spot that had strong athletic history, where our alums understand what it means to be great and would want to be connected to what we're doing. And also, what I mentioned is I don't want to be part of a program where I'm just shepherding a process. I want to come in, have the ability to have an impact, really move the needle. And so that's what checked the boxes across the board for PLU. That's exactly what this whole thing was. And so, spending my career in the Midwest, which we can dive into, I guess, in a minute, but specifically to this search, it was exactly what I was looking for. And at a time when our Our family was looking for a spot to settle in, put some roots down. Our kids were at a spot where we didn't want to keep moving them around. My oldest right now is a sophomore in high school, and I'm sure you can understand you wouldn't want to be moved around a lot around the country.
For
So
sure.
yeah, so we were trying to find a good home, and we found it here at PLU. And so when we got that opportunity, it was a big move, but it was really exciting for us to jump out here.
Yeah. And so you kind of hinted at it a little bit, but you spent 7 years at Illinois College where you oversaw 23 varsity sports and over 500 student athletes. What kind of lessons did you learn there that you brought, or from even prior jobs before Illinois College? What experience and what lessons did you learn that you brought to PLU?
I think the first one is really about being your authentic self. That was some words of advice I got before I got to Illinois College, talking with my good friend who's the athletics director at Oberlin. I was working there prior to, and she just said, be yourself, relax, everything will be fine. And it's easier said than done because I think as a younger professional, the first opportunity to lead a department, I felt like I had to be somebody. I felt like I had to have the answers. I felt like I needed to always show strength, and that's couldn't have been further from the truth. And there's opportunities where certainly you can lead from your strengths, but you need to be vulnerable. You need to be transparent. If you don't know an answer, you got to say that. And I spent my first year at Illinois College figuring out what I needed to change in myself because that first year was something where I was being somebody I wasn't. I wasn't relaxed in my role, and so I spent the next few years really trying to adapt and change, and relying on a lot of my staff and listening and paying attention to the needs of everybody in the department, and really coming to grips and understanding like it's not about me. It never is about me. It's about the student athletes. And so I just need to do more listening than talking. And so that's the biggest piece. I think the other part of it though is um, realizing that communication is the key to everything. Just in the sense of I got to understand that not only people communicate differently, they communicate differently in different situations. And it's my job as the leader of the department to know the staff, to know, maybe my volleyball coach likes text, my football coach likes in person, my
Right.
basketball coach doesn't mind emails, those sort of things. And so I'm trying to flex how I'm communicating to their needs so that way they can be more relaxed and have the ability to pour into the student athletes better because they're not stressed about kind of our interactions. So,
Yeah.
um, so communication is really the key component to all that, and it takes a while because you got to get to know your folks and know kind of their personality traits, and try to do right by them.
Yeah. Great stuff. So, under your current leadership at PLU, you guys have achieved notable success, including, multiple conference championships and even adding a new sport since 1996. So, how do you balance academics, student athlete welfare, and competitive success in your decision making?
Yeah, so I think those things are always the pillars of what we do. I operate with a couple different leadership groups. I have an executive leadership team and an administrative leadership team. The executive team includes some coaches as well as some of my admin staff, and then my admin staff or team is exactly just what it sounds like, just straight administrators. And whenever we're working through different processes, programs, you know, those sort of things, it's always talking about how the student athletes hear this, how they feel about these decisions that we're making. We try to listen to what our student athlete advisory committee says as well. We want to hear the input from them. Our coaches always bring great feedback to us about the way that they see stuff when they're working with their student athletes. And so, it's important to understand them because they are our clients. They're the ones who we're trying to serve and to give them that great experience. I certainly have a vision of what I would like to see at PLU, whether it's the staffing structure, the facility growth, budget enhancement, all of those things. And I think all of those things contribute to the student athlete experience. But once again, I said it before, it's not about me. It's about what what the student athletes need. And so I need to have those sort of opportunities where I can check myself and listen to others to make sure that we're doing the things that they need to be successful.
Yeah. And so, what was the process of adding a new sport to the program? I'm sure that was really interesting, really fun, really, I mean, it's something new, hasn't happened since the 90s. And how's that team doing now? How's that looking?
Yeah. Yeah. So that process, let's see, where do I even begin with that one? So when I arrived back in the summer of 21, we had an internal program review done that some of our campus staff and faculty, they looked through all the ins and outs of what our operations were looking like, and they wanted to provide a report to the new AD on here's some things we should be considering as we're starting this new time with me at the lead. And one of the things was to consider women's lacrosse, and is that something that we should be adding? At that point, of our 9 conference teams, 7 of them had women's lacrosse as a varsity sport. Us and one other school had not at that point. And so shortly thereafter, we hired another consulting firm to come in and do a Title IX audit for us as well. I wanted to make sure that I had a full understanding of where our gaps were and where we needed to be to make sure we're in full compliance with gender equity. And it came back just saying like, we're doing everything we need to do as far as reporting and knowing where the interests and abilities are for our recruited student athletes as well as the current folks on campus. But if we're looking to add a sport, we might consider women's lacrosse due to the rest of the conference and where they are with adding that or having that sport. So there's a built-in competition already there for us. And we already had the facilities to house them as well as far as the field set up. We had to do some locker room shifting, but by and large, it was I wouldn't say easy, but it was a fairly straightforward add. And then to add to this is that women's lacrosse has been a club sport for us for many, many years too. So we had this group of young women on our campus who were already competing in club women's lacrosse, who were having some success. They went to club nationals a couple of years back.
Yeah.
And so they were moving up the ladder on their competitiveness. We have a conference that already has this sport. And we haven't added a sport in a while. So it all kind of came together and made sense. And so what we ended up doing is I put a proposal forward to our university president as well as the president's council showing about how if we invested in this sport, what that could help out with enrollment, help out with Title IX, general just kind of balancing out and excitement around campus as well. And so we hired a coach to come in year 1 to coach that club team in year 1, but then do a bunch of recruitment for the first year of the varsity program, which ended up being last year.
Mm-hmm.
So she spent her first year doing that. Last year we were out on the field for the first time, won our first game at home, which was awesome. But the majority of last year was all about trying to build the base, build the culture, right?
Yeah,
I mean, as you know, with any sort of successful team, you've got to start there. You got to have the connections between the student athletes. You got to talk about your pillars, your core values, all of those sort of things. And we brought in this amazing coach. She was the head coach in Charleston in West Virginia.
Okay.
She's originally from Washington, and she wanted to get back to her home state. And she had told me that her reason or her why for coaching is she wanted to grow the sport in her home state. And so we're able to bring her back here. She's got a passion for this sport. And, we're very happy with where we are with that overall culture of the program. Our recruiting class coming in this fall is strong, and, we're looking forward to year 2. So, by and large, it's been a success so far, and really happy with where we are with the program. And I think in only a few short years, we should be competing towards the top of the conference.
Yeah, that's really amazing, and I'll make sure to follow the team and see how you guys are doing.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. So, as I stated before, you served as the president of the National Association of D3 Athletic Administrators. Tell us a little bit about that organization and how you became president and what your main priorities and responsibilities were.
Yeah, so that organization is an affiliate member of NADIIIAA, which is the National Association of Collegiate Directors of Athletics. So NADIIIAA is what I would say is the preeminent professional development organization for our industry, and their headquarters are based in Ohio, Westlake. And within under NACDIIIA, they've got about 13 or 14 affiliate groups that are specified to the certain areas of your work. So you've got a organization for facilities and events, people for marketing, licensing, ticketing, all those sort of things. And NADIIIAA is the kind of the way you would say the acronym there. NADIIIAA
Mhm.
came in under their wing maybe about 10 years ago or so. And it started off where it was an organization that I've been a member of for quite a while. And I was a member of a few other different affiliates through NACDA. I was actually the president of the Facility and Events Association as well. And then I spent some time on the executive committee for NACDA, the overall arching organization as well. And during one of those times, I don't remember which year because they all kind of blur together, I was asked if I wanted to join the board. And so I joined the board of directors for that, and just spent a few years doing the work, working on committees and helping grow membership and find sponsors and put on programming for our convention. And then a few years into that, someone from NACDA approached me and said, "Would you have an interest in being an officer and eventually being president of the organization?" And my belief is that if you're working in college athletics, it's an obligation to give back. You need to do whatever you can to help others. I know that I've had plenty of people that have helped me to get to where I am, and so it's I just feel like that's my duty to do that. And so with that kind of in mind, I say absolutely. I would love I'd love to be a part of this even further. I'd be honored to eventually be the president of this organization. And so moved into the third VP role, and every role is 1 year. So third VP, second VP, first VP, president, and then now I'm currently in the past presidential role. And along the way, we've restructured the organization. We've rewritten some of our bylaws. We've changed it to where the board composition is athletics directors only. We felt that if we're supposed to be the voice of D3 athletic administrators from our campuses, it was important to have athletics directors be leading this organization. And the organization, while it's open to everybody that's on a college campus from a D3 campus, we just felt that leadership needed to be ADs. And so we made that change a few years ago. My term as a president, we initiated a strategic planning process. We brought in an outside consultant that helped us with that to do some surveying and some interviews and to talk about where we were as an organization, what our purpose was, what are we trying to serve. And last June, when we were at convention, we pushed out that strategic plan and initiative of here's where we're going to go, here's what we heard from everybody, and then I passed the baton off to the next person. I'm in the past presidential role now, but now this year is when we're actually going to start implementing all of those things that hopefully will benefit our entire membership.
Yeah. So now jump into D3 athletics as a whole. What are some of the most pressing issues that face D3 teams right now?
Yeah, resources are the thing. It doesn't matter actually any level you're at. I think everybody would say resources. You talk to the power forwards, they're going to say that, man, I wish I had the money that Ohio State has, if you're talking to maybe someone in a smaller school. So everyone's going to say they need more resources. But for us, that all is kind of connected to enrollment. We are a lot of these smaller schools, there's a ton of us around. And just this past year, the country hit what we call our enrollment cliff. So back in 2008, during the last recession, people stopped having kids for a while. So there's a lot less college age kids right now, and that impacts all of our enrollment. So you're seeing a lot of small schools close because they're dipping below where they can operate. Fortunately, at PLU, that's not the case. We've been able to grow our enrollment during this time. We've had some good leadership and some good strategic vision on where we needed to go. But we are not flush with cash, so it's always hard to find the money to do what we want to do. Budgets are tighter. Personnel is lighter. Our facilities are not maybe as new and looking as great as we'd like because we had to cut back maybe on some maintenance staff, or our capital budgets are a little lower. So resources is the key to all of this. And so for me in my role, one of the things I'm trying to do is find a dollar anywhere I can find a dollar. And
Mm.
so we've done some things where our logos were never licensed a few years ago. So technically, Matthew, you could have opened up a PLU team store if you wanted to and printed up your own t-shirts. Can't do that now. We'll come after you. Um, but everything's now licensed, and so if anybody wants to use our logos, they have to pay a licensing fee, and we're seeing some revenue from that.
Yeah.
We also have started up our sponsorship uh, planning and being able to bring some sponsors onto our department and helping find some revenues that way as well. We've signed some deals with Alaska Airlines for our transportation needs, charter bus companies as well. So just trying to do everything we can to find more and more resources to help relieve the burden from either having to fundraise for operation or just to help offset some of our general needs within the department.
Yeah. And so something that's going on right now in D1 athletics, across, I was going to say football, but across all sports, um, is conference realignment. I mean, you got Oregon, USC, UCLA playing Big Ten with all the Midwest teams. You got SMU and Cal in the Atlantic Conference. I mean, it really doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
Um, has anything like that found its way to D3 yet, or how's that looking?
So yes, but not for the same reasons. So when you think about those examples you'd mentioned, that's money and that's broadcast rights. That's these big conferences are able to sell the media rights, and with the Big Ten having access to the Seattle market, the LA market, they're able to get more money coming into the conference because they're able to say that they're in those areas.
Mhm.
And so that's really where that stems from. When you talk about just pure logistics, you're right, it doesn't make any sense. Why would anybody want why would anybody think it makes sense to go from, say, Rutgers, New Jersey to, UCLA?
Yeah.
That's craziness, right? But money matters. And so, but in D3 world, it's coming back to, once again, resources. So as we're trying to figure out how do we balance our operating budgets, people are starting to look at which conferences they're a part of. In that, you might be in a conference in, let's say, Illinois, because that's where I was before here. There's two or three conferences that are all through that footprint in Illinois that maybe it makes more sense for you to be a part of one of the other ones, because when you look at travel costs for your buses and hotel fees, it might just be less expensive for you to be in this other conference. And so that can be a driver as to why you're flipping to a different conference. It might be an automatic qualifier to the NCAA tournament, where so depending on some sports, maybe your conference you're in right now doesn't have an automatic qualifier because not enough teams in your conference, or not enough institutions have those teams in your conference. So you might be looking to a new home for your teams because you want to be able to have access to get an AQ into the NCAA tournaments, and have, once again, better student athlete experience, hopefully better retention, all back to resources. So there's a lot of those sort of pieces that come into this as well. And I think as we are talking about conference realignment, there's also the aspect of, are there NAIA schools that might want to consider becoming NCAA schools? And some conferences are thinking about that because, you might have a setup geographically where you need another school somewhere in your outskirts of your footprint of your conference, because it helps with travel partners and moving people across and playing your schedules properly. So many different things that come into the conference realignment on who's going where and why. Once again, for us, it's not media rights, but we have another aspect of resources that we have to be mindful of too.
Yeah. And so speaking on conferences, PLU is in the Northwest Conference. What makes that special within Division III, and how do you take advantage of that?
Yeah, I think what's unique is, so as I mentioned, there's about 420 or so Division III athletics programs in the country. We have 9 of those in the Northwest, and there's about 10 of them in Southern California, and everybody else is from the Midwest over to the East. So we are geographically isolated in our kind of connection to Division III, which gives us an opportunity because we're not in heavy competition. I mentioned earlier that our enrollment is growing. Our athletic rosters are very healthy. because there is a plethora of high school age student athletes out here that don't that maybe they're not the D1 level,
Mhm.
but they want to have an opportunity to compete. So here we are, and we there's just nine of us up here in the Northwest, and we'll fight it out amongst each other a little bit to try to get those student athletes, and the high end programs will still have some of those folks who are maybe D2, D1s as well. But for the most part, the advantage for us is that we don't have as much competition as maybe our friends back in the Midwest and the East have. So, and then I would say, I know I'm biased, but it's beautiful out here, Matthew. Like
Oh
it's
yeah.
gorgeous. I don't know if you've ever spent any time out here, but Mount Rainier, we're the closest university to Mount Rainier. You can, when you sit at our baseball stadium and you look out to center field, and same thing with softball on a clear day, Mount Rainier is right there. Huge fir trees. The scenery is hard to beat. So
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Washington's one of those states where I'd love to go there. Definitely on my bucket list, Pacific Northwest. I mean, I think it'd be amazing. And so going back to PLU specifically, you were involved in leading and hosting the first ever NCAA regional in men's soccer. So what kind of planning went into that, and how did that look like for you?
yeah, so once again, so since we're so geographically isolated, not to get too far into the weeds, but I think it's important to understand when the NCAA puts their brackets together for a Division III bracket, they have to take into account the cost of getting the people to the different areas. And so it's easy to make a host site in the Midwest or East because there's any number of qualifying teams that can jump on a bus and in a short amount of time get to that campus. But if we're gonna be a host in the Northwest, odds are you're gonna be flying in three other teams to that
Oh yeah.
pod, and that's pretty expensive. And so traditionally, the Northwest Conference hasn't been able to host a lot because the NCAA is quick to say, "Oh well, if we put you down in Texas." There's another school in Texas that can be there. We can get someone over from Southern California, and the cost overall is going to be less.
Mhm.
So the unique situation that happened for us was the year that we were able to host, we put in a bid, and each year the NCAA switches on priority for hosting, whether it's a men's or women's. We're talking about soccer here. And Trinity, based out of San Antonio, has two stellar soccer programs, and they put in to host both. Well, that year, the priority was on the women's side, and they wanted to host both. They had a plan for hosting both, but the NCAA said, no, we just don't think it's going to give the right student athlete experience by staggering games in a certain way. So they looked at the rest of the region to see who else put in a bid. And we were the only other school in the region that was going to get in that actually put in a bid. So they said, all right, well, we're going to fly everybody up to Tacoma, Washington, and we're going to make it happen up there. The fun thing was that Trinity at that point, their men's team was the number 2 team in the country.
Mhm.
And so they had to leave their home in sunny San Antonio in November to come up to the rain and the gloom in Tacoma, Washington. And I'll tell you about the planning, but I got to finish this part of it. And so we played them in the first round and ended up beating them on penalty kicks.
Oh, that's
So
amazing.
yeah,
That's awesome.
absolutely incredible, absolutely incredible. But planning process for that though is, leading up to that is our associate athletics director for facilities and operations. He puts in this bid through the bid portal. He has to coordinate with all the hotels in the area to make sure we've got room blocks ready to go. We talk with our campus catering, all of our campus events folks to make sure rooms are reserved. We have, tents and fencing and staffing and everything all lined up, ready to go just in case. Well, you don't know if you're going to host until about 5 days before the first game. So the selection show happens on a Monday morning,
Mhm.
and game one, I think, is on that Saturday. So we're sitting there and watching the selection show in our lobby of our main athletic building with the team. And up on the screen pops Pacific Lutheran University with a little asterisk by the name. And I'm standing by our coach. I said, "Do you know what that means?" And he's like, "I have no idea." Because, why would we? We've never
Yeah.
hosted before. And I mentioned to him, I said, "That means we're hosting." And he about fell over. He was like, "Are you kidding me?" And I said, yeah, this is what it is. It's time to get down to work. And so it was all hands on deck. We had extra all coaches. We had them all signed up to help out with event staffing. We had volunteers there to help us set up, tear down. We had campus partners down there. We sent out emails to our alums, making sure they knew what was going on, had them come back. We reached out to some food trucks and had food trucks lined up on the outside. That next day, the NCAA sends you their signage package. So we had boxes and boxes of big championship NCAA signage. We had to get all that put up and presented and ready to go. Coordinated with the visiting teams, getting them all of their information packets,
Yep.
talking with them in the hotels, getting them all squared away with what they needed to have happen. All this stuff happens within, I mean, majority of this stuff happens within the first 48 hours of just knowing that now you've got to host this thing. And then you kind of go from there. So it was pure chaos, but in a good way. We were so excited. We were prepared and ready to go. But yeah, and if we have the opportunity, we put in bids every year. So we'd
Yeah.
love to do this every year. Because you'd see time and time again that those teams that are able to advance out of that first weekend and get to the Sweet 16 and beyond usually are the ones who are hosting just because of it's your home field, right? You get to sleep in your own bed. You kind of know what that's all about, and you don't have to jump time zones and kind of do all this other stuff. So if the NCAA grants us the opportunity, we are ready, willing, and able. So
Yeah. Hopefully they do. I mean, that's a great new change that happened to PLU, and that's amazing.
yeah.
And so now when you look forward, let's say 5, 10 years, what kind of innovations or shifts do you expect or hope for to see in D3 athletics?
So I would say there's two things that come to mind. I think the increase in use of AI technologies and a lot of the things that we do is, and I think in a lot of industries, that's the big thing that's popping. I think specifically for us in sports information, when we talk about coverage of our competitions with, um, writing the stories and recaps or capturing the stats or doing something along those lines. There's becoming more and more of these companies popping up that can have those sort of solutions that maybe you don't need to have a person do like what you once had to have happen. So I think something along the realm of AI is going to impact our work dramatically. Um, it's hard to look in a crystal ball and know for sure, but you
Mhm.
can't help but look at the big D1s and what's going on with NIL and transfer portals and all the chaos and the lawsuits. And you talk to folks and there are people that are just getting a little frustrated with just that overall feel. It's like, man, this is craziness. Like, this isn't what it used to be. This isn't the good old days anymore. And so here we are in D3 saying, hey, look at us. We are what the college athletics was supposed to be. We are the spot where you can come get your degree, play for your school, have a great experience. And so, talking with the leadership of the NCAA, we've had a lot of discussions about ongoing promotion of the product at Division III, and making sure people understand that it's not something that it's a fallback. I mean, it's really not. It's a choice of a lifestyle or choice of your experience. And for some folks, this is what they want. They're choosing this. They could go to some smaller D1s, but this is what they want to have because this is the environment they want to be a part of. And so, talking with the NCAA about promoting that as, hey, world, as we might be getting some frustrations about what we're seeing in big D1s, hey, what about this as something else we should be thinking about? And look at like what schools like PLU are doing and how you can have a great experience in doing this. And so, we're seeing this where our national championship football game was on ESPN this year.
Yeah.
And, prior to it had been kind of buried in some other smaller platforms, but it's starting to get promoted more and more on some bigger platforms. They're pushing out more, some notifications to different communities about, hey, this championship's going to be in your area. Come check it out. Come see what's going on in Division III. And we're seeing growth in attendance and growth in viewership online on our streaming. So I think what you're going to see in the next, say, 5 to 10 years is just that. It's going to be a growth of awareness and hopefully an acceptance and kind of people coming into the Division III world and saying that, hey, this is a great product that I want to be a part of.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great stuff. Um, so let's reflect a little bit on your career. When did you know that this D3 athletics was the lane you wanted to go down? And did you have like a aha moment?
Yeah, I don't know if there was a specific day, time, location where I was like, that's it. This is what's going to put me there. But I can tell you just briefly, my background, as you mentioned, I went to Bowling Green, got my undergrad there. I interned at the University of Michigan and spent some time there. I worked at Southeast Missouri State for a few years. So like my mind, it was D1. That's just kind of what I thought this life was going to be. I took a job at Oberlin College there near Cleveland, and that was my first D3 experience. Growing up in Ohio, there's so many D3s around there, but I never considered it. I don't know why. Just it was never a thing that I ever really dove into. And so getting to Oberlin was my first time to start to see what D3 was all about. I had an opportunity. I was in the middle of a search for an assistant AD position at a D1 a few years into my time at Oberlin. And at that point is when I stopped to think about it. As I was thinking about possibly leaving the environment at Oberlin for a D1, it just didn't feel right. I thought this isn't what I want to do. Why am I forcing this? And talking with some folks both there at Oberlin and some other friends and colleagues, I was like, you know what? I think working in D3 really accomplishes my why the best. My why is I love to help people. And being in a small college and having that direct connection to the student athletes and to the coaches and reporting directly to the president and being
Mhm.
involved in all of that sort of stuff really showed me that I could affect change. And that's something that I really wanted to be a part of. And thinking about the bigger picture of things too, it's D1's great. There's a lot of awesome things about D1, and there's some folks who are built for that. And then there's folks who aren't, and that's okay. I tell people that it's not about the grass being greener, it's about understanding the right shade of green for you. And so just because someone says this is the job that you should have, it doesn't have to be that way. It's what is right for you. And so, I love D3. It gives me the great balance for what I want to do professionally, and it gives me enough time to balance with my family, be able to be there for my kids, for my wife. And I'm not out here making millions of dollars in salary like some of those big ADs and those power forwards, but like that's okay. I get to have more freedom, I think, in my life overall to be able to do some of the things that matter to me the most.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's amazing. Um, so what has been your proudest moment, do you think, of your athletic administration career?
Man, that's a hard one. Matthew, there's so many things because you could look at this in so many different ways, right? Like if you talk about uh, just athletically and being a part of some of the cool athletic pieces. There's a few that pop into my mind. My first year at Illinois College, our quarterback was a finalist for the Gallardi Trophy, which is like the D3 Heisman.
Yeah.
And so I got to travel with him and his family and our coaching staff to that banquet and be a part of that. And that was just an interesting moment of being in a room that I haven't been in since, and it was a really awesome experience to be around and celebrate him in that setting. That we talked about the first couple rounds of the NCAA soccer tournament at our site here at PLU, and being the first time we've ever been able to do that and knocking off the number 2 team in the country on penalty kicks. I mean, I was like shaking. I was so excited. Our alums that were there jumped over the fence and were tackling people and piling on the field. I mean, it was pandemonium. And talking about today, I'm still getting chills. Like it was awesome. And so that's one part of it. But there's something else that I think is really, really cool that we started doing here at PLU is led by our baseball coach, who's a cancer survivor. He brought this organization to campus to try to get people to donate stem cells to help with getting a match and to help with people who have different blood cancers and things. And it was an initiative that started to grow, and over the last few years, we've had over 700 folks get on the registry, and we've had 4 of our student athletes become matches and have actually flown out to different areas of the country to donate stem cells to save lives. And that's the important stuff, right? Like that's the thing that, I didn't do anything about that. That's our leadership of our coaches and the bravery and the people stepping up from our student athletes to do those sort of things. But when you talk about being proud, I mean, how do you not say that saving four people's lives isn't the coolest thing? I mean, that's awesome. I'm so glad that we were able to be a part of that.
Yeah, that's just it really doesn't get any better than that, getting to help out people. Um, and so what advice would you give to someone that wants to get involved in the sports world, whether it be anything really? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I think be persistent, listen. I would say those things are incredibly important. I think know where you want to be on your path, understand your why. And for me, what worked out for me was try not to say no. I mean, I think that there are some opportunities that if someone says, "Hey, I need you to do this thing," or "Would you be interested in this other thing?" Um, the more times you can say yes means the more times that you can get that experience and you can build trust and a connection with somebody that more times than not is going to come back and benefit you down the road. You know, there's this industry is such a tight-knit community that I could pick up the phone and call a few of my friends and say, "Hey, I need to fill this position, or I'm looking for something. What do you know about this or this person or that person, or do you have any ideas for me?" And we all have those folks. They can be like, "Oh yeah, looking for somebody in broadcast or journalism. Talk to Matthew. He's awesome. He runs this podcast. It's pretty cool." Like so those sort of things are really important in building your footprint and understanding how to get from where you are now to where your goal is. Like that's really what you got to do.
That's great. That's great advice. All right, now I have a little lightning round for you. A couple questions, quick answers.
Gotcha.
Ready?
Love it.
All right, what sports did you play when you were growing up in Ohio?
Football was the main one. I did dabble in basketball, but was not good enough to do much with basketball.
If you could sign your own NAL deal right now, who would be your sponsor and why?
Oh man. That's a good one. So, Matthew, I got to tell you, I've been doing some watching of your previous videos, and these were not the questions I was expecting. You caught me off guard here. Who would be my NIL sponsor? Um, Probably New Era hats because I love me some hats.
Oh
So New
yeah.
Era or Zephyr, one of those two. I've got about 30 or 35 hats up in my closet.
Yeah.
My wife tells me I have a problem.
I don't see a problem at all. All right. Now give me your mascot, Lancelot. I believe it's
Yep.
Lancelot.
Mhm.
Give me a scouting report on him. Biggest strengths, what's a weakness, and what's a player comp?
Yeah, I would say biggest strengths is his energy, nonstop. I mean, this guy comes firing out with his sword and cape and is always out there with all sorts of energy. I would say weakness sometimes can be a little aloof. When you have that giant head, it's hard to kind of keep your head on the swivel.
Mhm.
Um, Player comp, man, that's a tough one. I'm gonna say. I think so. I would say we could probably take on the UCF night. I'm just
Oh
not
yeah.
sure. I haven't seen. I'd have to see them head to head, but I think we could probably take them.
I think you guys could take him.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. What's your favorite sport or team to watch outside of PLU?
Yeah. As sad as it might be, my Cleveland Browns.
Oh, oh
Growing
yeah.
up in Northern Ohio, it's the lot in life. Luckily, I cheer for the Guardians as well, and so like they usually sometimes will bring me up a little bit. But yeah, I tell people if I had to give up all my sports and cheer for one team, I would be stuck with the Cleveland Browns.
Well, I mean, the Guardians are coming back, trying to make a push, and the Browns big win Sunday against the
Yep.
Packers. So
Yep.
wasn't the worst week.
They string you along just enough just to keep you on the hook.
Oh yeah. Um, how many times have you moved jobs in college athletics?
Oh my gosh. All right. Let me think here. So was that one? I've been, I think at five different stops, I think is what it was. And then some different positions within those organizations
Yeah.
as well. Yep.
So what was your reaction when you heard BG was hiring Eddie George to be their
I
coach?
love it. Love it. So I'm not much of a jersey guy, but I can tell you one jersey that is in my closet is an Eddie George Ohio State jersey. My favorite Buckeye of all time.
Uh,
And then I've been glued to their socials, just watching all things that Eddie's doing there. I think it's outstanding. I was at Bowling Green when Urban Meyer was there and Dan
mhm.
Dockich was the basketball coach. And there's a lot of excitement when you can get somebody there that can, waken things up a little bit. And I think Coach George has got it.
Yeah, I mean they're doing good this year, I believe. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's looking
doing all
good.
right. Doing all right.
What's one thing about Division III athletics that you wish more people would understand?
That it's not the minor leagues. I
Mhm.
think is what it is. I think if people came out and watched some of our games, they'd understand that it is very high level competition and that this is an intentional place for a lot of folks.
Yeah. What is a non-score metric that you check to tell if your program is healthy?
Um, let's see. I would say it is so non-scoring, like not like wins losses we were talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I would say retention to the team. I think if the student athletes are doing a good job and having fun and connected to their team and their institution, they're staying on that program. So as long as those student athletes are there and sticking with their coach, that's generally a good sign.
What do you love most about PLU? I know it might be hard. You can give me, two or three, but what do you love most?
I think the bigger thing that I haven't mentioned yet is there is a big, broad culture of care and the ability to experiment and try new things, and you can fail forward. And so the president leads this. It's the mentality of why not? Why can't we do this? And it is there's a lot of freedom to be able to go try new things. Sometimes you hit on them, sometimes you don't,
Mhm.
but it's very freeing, and I love that environment.
All right. Last question, the big one.
Okay.
What are you doing on any given Monday?
Any given Monday. I'm starting my Monday off with a cup of coffee,
Mhm.
sitting in a side chair in my office, usually reading some sort of leadership book for the first 30 minutes of the day. And then I'm on to the onslaught of emails and check-in meetings and trying to get around to talk with coaches throughout the day.
Well, that's great. That's all I got for you. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Matthew. Appreciate you.
That was a lot of fun.